Welcome back, guys. So, I've been shopping this week, and major thanks to the guys over at Anderton's for keeping an efficient service running. Even with the shop closed, the online stuff is still going strong. They've whisked me out some stuff this week to allow me to get my bass and get my microphone, hopefully inputting into the recording device here a bit more smoothly, and allowing me to come across to you guys a bit clearly. This has only just arrived this afternoon, so I've just kind of rigged up a bit of a quick setup. Hopefully I'm coming across clearly to you, and over the weekend I'll tweak this, and we can get into a bit more meter stuff next week. So today, just as a tryout, make sure I'm sounding good to you guys, I just wanted to go over a different technique. So we covered a lot in terms of finger plucking on the bass, but an awful lot of people will also use a guitar pick or plectrum to play. Now, in certain circles, this can be looked down upon, and I hate it to see that, because it's a really useful tool to get a different feel and a different tone out of the bass. And in certain circumstances, that can really work, and it can really sound better than actually playing with your fingers. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up and just go over a couple of different picks and the way I hold the pick and how I use it. So obviously, if you're coming across from playing guitar onto the bass, you'll be fairly used to using a pick. I'd encourage you to keep up with that, but learn to play with your fingers over time. If you're starting anew, I would say that learning with your fingers first is probably a better move, because that takes a little longer to develop, whereas the pick seems to come more naturally to a lot of people. If you learn to play with a pick first, then you're going to be stuck with learning that motor skills for your fingers later on, and that can be a bit of a slower process. So just to encourage the right order of things here. Now, I use a couple of different picks on occasions. I mostly play fingerstyle, but it's a useful tool to have in the bag. So I've got a couple here. One is just sort of industry standard. This is a Dunlop Tortex 1mm. It's a standard shape. You can get these absolutely anywhere. All sorts of different sizes and gauges. The other one I've got here is a bit more exotic, and this is a Dunlop again, but a prime tone, which is made out of a material called Ultex. It's a little harder, but this is a 1.5mm and made in the triangle shape. Now it's a little bit bigger, and some bass players prefer this because you've got a bit more gripping surface as well. And also, I kind of feel when you've got a bigger plectrum, like physically wider, that can give a bit more meat to the tone. So a plectrum can, on occasion, sort of thin out a bass tone. You get a bit more sort of treble response to it. But you might like that clank. But if you want to play with a pick but not get quite so much of that treble attack, then a thicker pick will normally do you well. So, different sizes, different materials, different gauges, those all make a big difference to how you're sounding when you're playing with a pick. In terms of playing, I like to use the method of a sort of more closed hand approach. So I would have my thumb over one side, and then my index finger kind of claws around it, and my hand closes up like that. So you've got a very small amount of the pick actually coming out, and then I kind of keep a loose wrist and kind of anchor with my forearm on the top of the bass here. So playing and also what I'm doing there, I'm kind of not even thinking about it, but slightly anchoring with my little finger on the pick guard there. I don't use that an awful lot. When I'm playing guitar, I do anchor with my little finger quite a bit underneath the pickups normally. With bass, I tend to keep a looser wrist, but it's also quite useful to keep that kind of anchoring point. Likewise with anchoring your thumb when you're using the finger plucking technique, it just allows a little bit more control over the whole technique. So yeah, holding like that. Some people like to hold it with two fingers on the back, and that kind of keeps a bit more open hand technique. I don't find that too comfortable, but if you do wear your bass a bit lower down, then you might find that sort of works better for you. That's it, really. I would say, yeah, go out and try. different sizes, different gauges, a pick, different materials. See what works for you. There's all sorts of things. These are just a couple of examples, but I would encourage you to go and find out what seems to be sound right to your ears. Get it in the toolbox. Learn to play with fingers. Learn to play with a pick. We'll cover much more techniques later on. Some stuff that I use, some stuff I don't really use that much, but it's useful to have just a basic grounding in them. So when you are called upon to use it, you're there and ready to go. So I'm going to play out with the triangle today.